But here's the thing. I have a slideshow that has tons of links. Now, when I try to play the links in my live video, it sort of lags. And so you're not going to get the full effect of the videos I would like you to watch. So I'm going to ask you guys to press pause in certain areas to open up the actual links and to watch what I want you to watch, just to get the full extent of the example I'm trying to give you. So first things first, what is a rhetorical analysis? So I put a definition here. It's kind of like looking at the parts to determine the whole. It's a type of analysis where you really observe, whether it's the literature or whatever it is that you're analyzing, you really observe it under a microscope, so to say. It's how well the components work together to persuade an audience. And of course, it could be, not necessarily to persuade an audience, but to move an audience or to convince an audience. It doesn't always have to lead to action, but it's still the whole point is that you would like to impact your audience somehow. And that's what a rhetorical analysis is. Some examples of where you can find rhetorical analysis. You can find it in advertisements and editorials. By the way, essays are editorials. So that would be kind of like a formal way of putting it. We say essays only in academia, like out in the real world, if you're reading a newspaper or a magazine, it would be called an editorial. Political cartoons, you can even find this kind of a argument in, movies and shows, photographs. Basically, what I'm trying to say is anything can be used as the method in which you rhetorically analyze. I wish this was a longer semester because if it were, we were going to have a group assignment on this very topic, but it's not. It's a condensed class. So we're going to have to just kind of, do small practices here and there. So let me start off by giving you a general example. So there's this campaign called This Girl Can. And I would like you guys to press pause on my lecture here, watch the video. It's a very moving campaign. It sort of like encourages women to get up and work out. It gives a full range of women, all shapes and sizes, ages, different ethnic backgrounds. And it sort of is, a motivational video. So if you notice, the video uses tactics that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So I wanted to give it as kind of like our introductory example. So go ahead and watch it. And you might want to ask yourself, what does the video use? What are the details that you notice that the video uses to get women to get up and to want to work out? Next, I would like to give you guys the different components of a rhetorical analysis. Let me just move myself somewhere that doesn't have writing. Okay, over here is fine. So first of all, it's important to understand that every single, every time, sorry, you are analyzing, you're undergoing the process of a rhetorical analysis, you always, always, always ask yourself, what is the purpose? And the purpose is usually going to be to convince, to persuade, what is it that the argument is trying to achieve? So there are some questions here that you want to ask yourself anytime you're trying to do a rhetorical analysis. What is the goal of the argument? What are they trying to persuade me to do? How can we tell? So what are some of those persuasive tactics that they're using? Notice this example on the right. This is an advertisement for a cigarette. And there's a lot of methods, right, that the ad uses to persuade people to want to, smoke this particular brand, the gold leaf cigarette brand. There's the cigarette that is kind of like extending out. It's almost like an invitation, like come and take me, And then it's very close up. There's very simple colors. If you notice, this color scheme is basically black and white, and then the actual packaging is red to catch our attention. So there's a lot of these details that stand out that you want to pay attention to. Secondly, you always want to ask yourself, who is the author of the rhetorical analysis? So again, it's part of the, persuasive scheme to understand who the author is. So I ask you guys this, and I give an example on the right. And if you look at the bottom, I know it's very small print. It says NHS, which is the organization that funded this ad. And if you look it up, NHS is the National Health Service. So, it gives us a lot of insight on what this audience, this author is trying to achieve just by knowing a little bit more about them. This is a nonprofit organization. Clearly, they care about our health. They're not really in it for the money. They're releasing these set of advertisements, trying to convince people not to smoke for a variety of reasons, for some facts that they give. Notice the simplicity of the advertisement. They have two columns, and one column it says, if the traditional argument of why you shouldn't smoke isn't appealing to you, the fact that it impacts your lungs, your heart, your throat, then maybe you'll do it for, and here's like a more modern day argument, do it for your penis. And the advertisement tries to do this in a very unique way. The metaphor of the cigarette, of course, being used to represent the penis and so on. So whether you think the ad is successful or not is irrelevant. What you want to pay attention to is the author of the ad and what it is they are trying to achieve. Next, let us look at the audience. So the audience of some of these arguments, you always want to ask yourself, who are they targeting? So who is making the ad is one question, but who are they targeting is another question. A lot of times, for advertisements, they're targeting us, the consumer, because they want us to go out and buy a certain product. So I asked a series of questions at the bottom here, like, how can you tell who the audience is? What is the age range of the audience? Is it targeting men or women or children? You always want to ask yourself these questions. So again, I would like you guys to press pause, go ahead and watch this video. It's an advertisement from Australia. And then if you haven't, I'm gonna reveal it in the next slide because I don't want to give anything away. But I would like you to press pause and try to figure out who the intended audience is. Okay, just internally, in your mind, try to answer that question. And then in the next slide, I will reveal who I think the intended audience is. So just to, no spoiler alert, I'm going to give my opinion of who the intended audience for the previous ad was. Wouldn't we all agree? Men. Stereotypical men, because the advertisement is targeting kind of like this stereotype of a man and what he seeks, solitude, and then, alcohol, like beer, and then the hot female coming out of the ocean, kind of like, entering his dreams. So I would say it's a very, man-based ad. Next, a good rhetorical analysis is always going to have strong pathos, always. And you want to watch out for the pathos, because you want to be able to understand what are the steps that the author is taking to impact our emotions. Because if you're trying to persuade an audience, you always want to impact their emotions in some way. Notice this ad on the right. Yes, the maker of the ad is BMW, but they're not necessarily advertising a car. They're instead trying to advertise, a lifestyle, like an action, a decision that we can make every time we get behind the wheels. So it's kind of like it represents BMW as a more responsible author, because they care about us. So I'm going to have you guys read this article. It's part of our assignment. It's called Advertising's 15 Major Appeals. I'm sorry, 15 Emotional Appeals. It's written by Jib Fowles. And so I would like you guys to read that article because it is going to give you a better perspective of the kinds of pathos that exists whenever you're observing like a rhetorical analysis. And of course, Jib Fowles uses advertisements, and my examples are of advertisements just because they're easier to incorporate into a slideshow. But those emotional appeals can exist in all kinds of arguments, not only advertisements. So here are the list of 15 emotional appeals that Jib Fowles talks about. I made a list for you guys just to make it easier for you to go over it. And then I gave you tons of examples. So aside from reading Fowles' article, I would like you guys to just take a moment and review these slides and review some of these examples that I've provided for you. I'm going to just go over them very briefly. We don't need to go in depth, but I do want you to understand each emotional appeal, and hopefully it will help you take the quiz that I have on Jib Fowles. So number one is the need for sex. So this is the sex appeal that is being used. I gave you a print advertisement that you might want to look at. Ask yourself, how is sex being used to sell this product in this advertisement? And then I also have a link to a video that again uses the sex appeal. So again, pay attention to what are some of the tactics that again are using the sex appeal. Number two, the need for affiliation basically means the need we all have to belong to a certain group. We're social beings, and so the emotion of wanting to fit in is actually a very main emotion that is used in advertising and in other arguments to persuade an audience. I gave you a print ad, and then here's a link to a commercial ad that I would like you guys to watch that again uses this appeal. Number three, the need to nurture. What do we typically want to nurture? Babies, animals, basically anything that is helpless and needs our assistance, needs our protection. So that's what the nurture appeal targets, that feeling that we all have to kind of like protect and take care of something else. And if again, I have a link for you that I would like you guys to press pause and watch. And here's another one. Number four, the need for guidance. This is an emotion, I don't know about you, but I'm always wanting a second opinion on everything. What I'm wearing, what I should eat, where we should go on date night, whatever it is, I just want guidance. I want like another person's opinion, and I want that person to be credible in the opinion that they're giving. So the need for guidance targets that very emotion, like, oh, hey, Dr. Phil thinks I should drink milk, so maybe I should. And then number five is the need to aggress. This is actually a very natural instinct emotion that we all have, that aggression appeal. We have anger, we have rage. Hopefully most of us can control it. And a lot of these, arguments, they harness that, they take that, sorry. And there's a link there for a commercial ad I would like you guys to watch just to see an example. The need to achieve, a lot of sports ads use this. What do you want to achieve? Usually some kind of a prize, right? If you're in a team. Number seven is the need to dominate. That's interesting, right? To always be on top, to win, to control your setting. I just love these ads so much. Here's a print ad. And then there's two commercial ads. Again, it features the same actor. And I would like you guys to see how he just kind of like enters the scene and just commands the entire room. Number 8 is the need for prominence. And what exactly is prominence? It's the good stuff in life, that designer bag, those Gucci shoes, whatever it is that is kind of like representative of the high life, that's what it targets. And I do have a commercial ad that I would like you guys to watch. The need for attention, this is self-explanatory. We all have that desire in us to have attention. Just go on Instagram and go on any random person's feed. It's like everyone nowadays is some kind of an Instagram influencer of some kind. And it's all kind of targeting that need for attention that we all have. The need for autonomy. Autonomy is our desire for independence, to be self-sufficient. And a lot of these advertisements or arguments, they use that. And there's also a commercial ad I would like you guys to watch. The need to escape. Um, we all can relate to that, especially when finals are coming up or midterms are coming up. We get stressed out. We want to escape. The need to feel safe. Now, this appeal is used whenever there's some kind of a danger in the corner. So the danger here obviously is, accidents, car accidents, traffic accidents. The danger at the bottom is the weather. Of course, the weather can be very dangerous as well. So it's kind of like the safety appeal is used whenever there is a background danger lurking around. Next is the need for aesthetic sensations. Now, it was really hard for me to just select one as an example. So I'm like, all right, I'll select 5. So these are 5 different advertisements that use the aesthetics appeal. Now notice these 2 on the right are from Louis Vuitton. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a third one by Louis Vuitton too. This is a clothing brand, but at the same time, they're very, very they often in their advertisements use the aestheticism. What is aestheticism? It's our appreciation and love for beauty. And it's interesting, right? Because beauty is very subjective, but then as a society, there's usually some kind of a definition of beauty that we lay out there. So it's very interesting to see how a lot of these ads they use the beauty appeal to target us. Number 14 is the need to satisfy curiosity. And sorry, and this is usually this argument is used when they give you incomplete information and they just want to spark enough of your curiosity so that you can research it a little bit more. Now, notice that there's a question in this ad, what if it happened here? The word it is used in an ambiguous way. And of course, there's a website at the bottom that encourages you to look up what it is that they are trying to talk about. So it's sort of like giving you a little bit, but not too much, so that you could follow it up, so that your curiosity can be awakened and you can go ahead and do a little bit more research. And finally, number 5 is 15, sorry, is the need, the physiological need. So this is our need to eat, to sleep, to drink water. Our physiological needs are just like those natural needs that we all have. Sorry. It's the natural needs that we all have in our physical bodies. So whether it's food, whether it's sleep, whether it's water, and notice that this advertisement in particular, the message is, oh, sleep like a baby, which is, by the way, a misconception because babies do not sleep well. I learned from experience as a sleep deprived mother. of a 4-month-old. So the physiological needs uses that appeal. Now, the next element in a rhetorical analysis is the ethos. And this is the part that's very interesting because ethos uses credibility. Anytime you're trying to persuade an audience, you want to come across as a credible source, right? So a lot of these arguments, they use credibility. I gave you guys two examples. These examples I selected from the 2020 election, and these were the campaign ads. In 2020, Trump was running against Biden, and both of them had these sort of like campaign ads that were trying to persuade the audience to vote for them. So my question was, and this is something to think about, how do they try to build their own credibility in these ads? So I would like you guys to watch both of them and just notice maybe like one or two details in it that, oh, okay, here is how Trump is trying to build his credibility, or here is how Biden is trying to build his credibility. And then next up is in a rhetorical analysis, you always want to look for the logos. And logos, let me just move this up a little bit. Logos is the use of logic. So if you are going to be persuaded to, let's say, do something, like purchase something, then you want to make sure that, whoever the author is, they want to make sure that they have enough facts that they are presenting to you, the audience. And so here is a print ad for the iPhone 5. Notice at the bottom here, it's just a list of facts. Because, the iPhone 5, the features speak for themselves, and so you want to maybe buy the phone because of these features. And so that's the use of logos here. Next in a rhetorical analysis is usually the arrangement. So this arrangement, and I'm giving you mainly an example of an advertisement, but it could also exist in like an essay or wherever, whatever you're analyzing. But the arrangement is really how the argument is put together. So if you're going to look at a commercial ad like this one, let me move myself a little. If you're going to look at a commercial ad like this one, do you notice how messy the arrangement is? When you look at this ad, you're not quite sure who's the author, what are they trying to convince me to do? I don't understand. There's too much going on. There's a lack of simplicity in the ad. And I always talk about this with my students, and I say, what do you guys think? Is this a Whopper advertisement, or is it a Facebook advertisement? Or did Facebook and Whopper, which I guess is in Burger King, right? The Whopper, did they combine to create one ad? It's a little confusing. So there's a lack of simplicity. There's too much going on. The organization is messy. And so it sort of like hurts the rhetorical analysis. And I want you guys to pay attention to those details as well. And you also want to look at the style of an argument. In an advertisement, the style matters. The style creates a certain tone. The tone might be pushing the envelope, or it might be just right. In an essay or something, the style is that the way, that persona that the author uses to write the argument. If you look at my example on the right here, this is an example of an unsuccessful style. Now, I know, you have to ask yourself, okay, Sephora, who do they mainly target? So if you look at the demographics, the main shoppers at Sephora are women. And as a woman, and I've asked, a classroom full of women, I asked them, is this appealing? Is this the look that we're going for as women? And I always get the answer, no, it's not. It's almost like the authors were not in sync with what women want, of what women desire. We don't want to be covered in white stuff. You know, we we want, if you're advertising good skin, we want to see good skin. And we don't know, this looks not right. So you always, I want to ask yourself, how far is too far that certain ads, push in an effort to maybe be witty, or maybe to capture our attention. So the style matters for sure. And that, my friends, is a rhetorical analysis. All of these examples are there for you guys to review, to learn. Feel free to ask me any questions at all, and I really hope this was helpful.